Alright, okay, hello everyone. First, I would like to thank everybody on Twitter who got my views, and I'm almost on something I said, like 14,000 likes, almost 7,000 retweets, and like 400 quote tweets, and over 600 replies. And so, thank you all for that. So today I'm going over Gesara Part 3. There is no judicial review. Q era, Q leadership, November truth, end of the monarchy, the Build Back Better plan, and more. So, 2 reasons for the Constitution. Establish a federal government for the United States, and delegate the federal government certain limited powers. The Constitution was written by the 13 original states. The federal government, created by the states, exists to serve the states until the states delegate some powers to the new federal government. Those powers belong to the states. And if you think about that, that's actually been the reverse. The federal government has been creating its own power instead of states providing it power. So the federal government has been stealing power. Okay, so the states are the boss of the federal government, not the other way around. The Supreme Court has a conflict of interest because it is part of the federal government. Who manages the Supreme Court? The states are the enforcers of the Constitution, not the Supreme Court. The Constitution does not give you rights. The Founding Fathers made it clear that the Constitution, in the Constitution, that our rights are natural and God-given. The Constitution protects those rights from the federal government. The Bill of Rights state that even though it may not list a certain right, you still have that right. Any powers not delegated by the Constitution to the federal government are retained by the states and people. The government has interests of its own that conflict with your rights. For example, the Build Back Better plan is to remake you into their image. So your rights are in the way. According to the government, you should not have any say in the matter of your health because the government knows best. When did the government become God again? I forgot where the government was like, I'm absolute power, absolute God. I must have missed that date. You retain the right to decide if you want the vax or to get waxed. The government wants more power, and they want to build you in their image, what the government wants you to think, what the government wants you to say. The government is not the good guys. The government does not give a fuck about you, especially with the current fake people in charge. We, the people, created the government of the United States to serve us, not the other way around. So in order to carry out its grandiose plans and achieve its goals, the government has to exercise powers well outside those limited powers granted it by the Constitution. The Supreme Court has been a willing accomplice, permitting gradual but continuous expansion of government powers. As soon as we, the people, become accustomed to living with the latest power grab, powers are expanded yet again. The government sees no practical limits on its power. In the rare event that some law or part of a law is found to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, Congress just reworks the text a little and then passes essentially the same unconstitutional law again. So in its practice of judicial review, too often the Supreme Court is not asking, are the citizens' rights being violated by this law? Instead, the question is the violation of citizens' rights justified because of overriding government goals and objectives? Too often, the answer the court delivers is yes. When your rights get in the way of a government objective, you lose. The government was created to protect your rights. The government created to protect your rights should have no goal higher than the protection of those rights. When government's own goals override your rights, government is acting unconstitutionally. Government often states that these violations of citizens' rights are necessary for the good of society. And when does the government know what is best for society? Society is ill-served by laws which violate the rights of the citizens making up that society. The 10th Amendment. Any powers that we do not give to you are ours. We are still the boss. The time for the states to regain control of the government, which thinks the states are subordinate to it. The federal government exists to serve the states, not the other way around. The states have the right, the duty to restrain the federal government. Unfortunately, most state governments don't seem to understand this. So, now going into some quotes by some people. This is from James Madison. The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. The Constitution, and this is by Patrick Henry, the Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people. It is an instrument for the people to restrain the government, lest it come to dominate our lives and interests, which it is doing, people. Okay. Is the Constitution... this is by Warren Mickelson. Is the Constitution flexible? Of course it is, but not in the distort, bend, and mold it to do anything you want way that politicians use it. Rather, it is flexible in that it embodies timeless principles which can be applied to many situations. And I forgot to state in the beginning, all this, like I said, my channel and everything in it, my Twitter account, my Facebook account, my Open Diary account, my Prosebox account, all relate to my novel, which is hopefully coming out next year. I'm in the process of editing it, my final edit, before I query authors, or before I query literary agents. So I just want people to keep this in mind. But do remember that the truth is stranger than fiction. Going forward now. So, what do I mean by Q leadership and the Q era? I'm not talking about the QAnon thing. Although, it could relate. I don't necessarily know what he or she or whoever's behind that. I don't necessarily know what they mean by the letter Q. But in this instance, I'm talking about quantum. That's what Q stands for, is quantum. So we're moving into the quantum era and into quantum leadership. And this was something that I was explaining in my last class, because there is peer-reviewed literature on quantum leadership, and it goes along with what I consider unitive leadership, which is something I strive for, is to unite, not to divide, because I see duality as the major consequence of basically everything that is. So we are coming into an age where the quantum computer is going to play a very significant role. And quantum computers, one of the main things I like about it is that it has predictability for future events. There's even one that businesses can get right now. It's called D-Wave. You can research that and it'll take you to the website. And it can hold up to 1 million variables. And so what you do, at least from my understanding, I haven't ever messed with a quantum computer, but I've done a lot of research on it, is that you can enter in these variables and it'll give you a prediction of possibilities. I mean, it could be like 16 different outcomes if these are the possible situations that'll happen if you pertain to these certain variables. And so the whole goal is to understand how your choices affect the future. And quantum leadership can take that to utilize that to focus us on a better era, a better way. Or if somebody who's not good gets a hold of it, can take it the other direction. And I think that's the situation that we're in right now, and that's why everything kind of seems a little strange, because I believe that both sides have these computers and they've been using them to try to get the best of each other. But you necessarily do not need that to understand the future or how to get there or anything like that. The human body can do it on its own. You just have to train your mind, open your third eye, meditate, be still. But at the moment, because humanity has kind of gone down a lot in consciousness, technology like that could help raise consciousness levels to get you to the point to where you can do that on your own. But quantum leadership also deals with bringing in spirituality, because spirituality is important, and a few other things. It's seeing the whole picture and how to get there in a better way. So at the moment, that's what I'm going to say. I have more about it in an essay that I wrote. There's 2 essays that I want to do. There's one on diversity, and there's one on quantum leadership, that I don't know if I'm going to read the whole thing or just kind of take certain parts that I wrote and put it in here, but I'm going to do videos over those 2 essays at some point. Probably next month, if everything next month goes smooth. Okay, so now let's talk about next month. Okay, I can't remember whether it was in one of my videos, but I know I did it on Twitter because I re-quoted my own tweets. But November Truth. Now, when I started talking about this months ago, I did not realize that Trump was going to come out with his social media account and name it Truth. That I did not know. I was not expecting that. But I know that beginning tomorrow, November 1st, I don't know if anything's going to come out then, but the whole month of November is going to be a lot of truth coming out. But key dates that you You want to watch around the 3rd. There might be something small or big happen around there. But the important dates for next month, even though the whole month is like basically designated for truth, is you wanna look at around, give or minus a day or two, November 10th through the 17th. Those are going to be very important dates next month. That's from what I'm gathering. That's what astrology is showing, and that's me putting everything together. Now, there is something I want to talk about. So if you look at a lot of my previous videos, especially the ones where I talk about future predictions and things of that nature, there's a few things I talk about. I talk about this upcoming period of truth. I talk about, and I've also talked about like the virus. I wrote a poem on the virus called Pestilence. If you want to look that one up. And I did that. I believe that came out almost a year to the date. It was probably 11 months. That the coronavirus happened. Well, in the United States, really. In China, it kind of began later in that year, because I did the poem in 2019. But I wrote that poem like in 2004, really. So I knew this time was going to be crucial. So I did a lot of previous work ahead, or before, so that I was prepared ahead for this moment. But there's also a few other things I talk about. I talk about the Queen dying. I talk about natural disasters, riots, upheavals, and this new coming age that's coming about. And the death of the Queen should symbolize the end of the monarchy. Give or take, maybe after she dies, maybe 3 years it dissolves. I can't. It's hard to remember some of these things, because it was 20 years ago when I was kind of like shown this. But there might be like a 2 or 3 year kind of like period where there's like a temporary person there for levels to adjust. And I wasn't. And this is a confusing time because of so much disinformation and trying to find the right information. But another thing that I also talked was major natural disasters, and that we're seeing. So knowing those two things and what's going on with the election and everything like that, all that is coming together. All these are plays and symbols that we are on the right path, that we are on the right timeline. And then, so everything is going in the right direction, as many of you may not think that it is, but it is. People are waking up to the fakeness, to the fiction, let's just say, that is reality. And then, all I'm trying to do is wake you guys up. I'm just the messenger trying to get everything started, and even though all this is about my novel Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, like I've said before, my novel is going to also pertain to the past. It actually starts a long, long time ago. My first book will not be related to this. You won't see anything about this until the 3rd novel that I write. Because there's so much that really needs to be covered, and people don't know for how long this has really been going down. But I've provided all the clues, and the one thing about knowing the future, at least it's been hard to me, is to put exact dates on things. Like, I can see and feel situations, and I think that might be the right time, so I might say something. But sometimes that does not come to fruition. So a lot of what I said will come. I just don't know the exact time. Sometimes I get it right because, like I said, I'm being guided by my intuition on that. So the last thing I want you to think about on all this is the Build Back Better plan is not about society in any way. The Build Back Better plan is about rebuilding you in the image of the government and taking God away. So keep that in mind, because here, once again, and it's the importance of the whole Nesara Gesara and understanding the reality of what our government was actually created for, is that you tell the government what to do. The government shouldn't be telling us what to do. The government is serving itself. It's on a power grab. And the Build Back Better plan is to recreate you in that image. That the government is always right. You shouldn't argue with the government. It's tyranny. So, I will talk to you guys later. I am on a month off to write my dissertation from school. I'm on a month off, so I'm hoping to come maybe do a video or two every week. We'll see how things go, because just like you, I'm kind of understanding some of these things and the Nesara Gesara thing, and I'm seeing it come true. Like election audits is part of the Nesara Gesara plan, and you're seeing that happen. The gold standard is part of the Nesara Gesara plan, and you're seeing that take place. China is coming out with a digital gold thing, and Russia, France, and China have left the dollar, so you're going to see inflation rise, and I've warned about this a lot. America should be going on a gold standard too, but I don't know how long that's going to take. It depends on how long they want to bleed this system, and I'm hoping it's not too long, because the more that they bleed the Federal Reserve of money, the higher prices are going to get. So I'm hoping somewhere along the lines America picks up the pace and puts its gold standard up. And from what I understand, I don't know if this is true. I'm hoping that it's true, but in some way we are supposed to be compensated for all this pain and suffering. So I hope that comes to fruition. I hope that comes true, because, you know, you all have been through a lot, especially through this past year, and in my opinion, that would be the right thing to do. And I know that for some of you that doesn't really compensate for some of the suffering that has been had, but it's a start, I guess. I know some people have been through a lot during this time, and they're not used to it. And people don't necessarily know how to act the best way when things have been going a certain way for a long time, and that kind of anarchy situation is created. People tend to kind of go crazy in their mind. But good things are on the way. I believe that. You believe that. Remember the power of the mind, the power of positive thinking. If this is the reality that we want the Nesara Gesara. So in order for that to happen, we got to start thinking like that. And then we got to start taking what I'm going through and showing you. And we got to start enforcing that on the government. They cannot force you to do anything. So other than that, it's better to get waxed than vaxxed, and You all have a good one. Alright. Peace. Bye.